Daniel remained in his rich loft, holding the exquisite greeting to his ex Claire's wedding. The information of her impending marriage had hit him harder than he expected. Claire had left him a year prior, saying he was excessively engaged on his work and never made sufficient opportunity for her. Now, as he gazed at the greeting, Daniel felt a blend of trouble, also sharpness. The prospect of joining in the wedding alone made him fear the occasion considerably more. Sometime thereafter, as Daniel strolled through the clamoring city roads, he saw a lady sitting discreetly on a corner. Her garments were worn and her hair was messy, however she had a thoughtful grin all over. In spite of her troublesome circumstance, there was a stately thing about her. Daniel ended up halting, furthermore, checking out at her briefly longer than common. "Hello there," Daniel expressed, approaching her. "I am Daniel." The lady looked up a piece, shocked by the well-disposed move toward. "Hello, I'm Arlette," she answered delicately. Grin warm yet careful. Daniel didn't understand what come over him yet. As they talked, he wound up attracted to Arlette's peaceful strength. She talked with Arlette, and that's what inside uncovering life had tossed her some intense challenges, yet she hadn't lost her benevolence or trust. The more Daniel listened, the more he respected her versatility. Then, in a snapshot of hasty sympathy blended in with a longing to show up at the wedding with somebody unforeseen, Daniel asked Arlette, "Would you like to come to a wedding with me? My ex is getting hitched and I could utilize some organization. I'll ensure you have a pleasant dress, a decent dinner. What's more, an opportunity to encounter something different." Arlette connected in shock. "You maintain that I should be your date to a wedding?" she asked, uncertain she had heard him accurately. "Indeed," Daniel gestured. "Why not? You merit a day to feel extraordinary, and truly I could utilize the organization." Arlette faltered for a second, considering the bizarre, however captivating proposition. At long last, with a little grin, she read, "Okay Daniel, I'll go with you." Neither of them knew it at the time, however. This choice would set off a chain of occasions that would change both of their lives perpetually. Daniel strolled away from that traffic intersection with a feeling of expectation, not knowing that Arlette would before long become undeniably more than simply a wedding date. Daniel kept his vow to Arlette and took her to one of the city's most selective shops. As they strolled through the brand entryways, Arlette's eyes enlarged at seeing the rich environmental elements, columns of planner dresses, shining gems, and exquisite shoes showed like craftsmanship pieces. Briefly she felt awkward, however. Daniel's consoling grin gave her the certainty to step forward. The shop staff at first looked at Arlette with a blend of interest and detachment. Her worn garments and tired appearance didn't fit the standard customers, however, when Daniel clarified that he was there to help Arlette find the ideal outfit, their perspectives immediately moved. They brought out their best dresses, shoes, and embellishments, treating Arlette with the same consideration and care they would give to any rich client. Arlette felt a blend of feelings: fervor, apprehension, also incredulity as the staff worked there, enchantment. It styled her hair, put on cosmetics, furthermore, helped her into a shocking dress. that fit her like it was made only for her. When she at last checked herself out in the mirror, she could scarcely perceive the lady gazing back. She looked rich, sure, and lovely, yet most significantly she felt a flash of pool that she hadn't felt in quite a while. As they left the store, Arlette went to Daniel, her eyes loaded up with appreciation. "Much thanks to you, Daniel. I've never felt like this before. It's mind-boggling, and it's great way." Daniel grinned back at her, truly glad to see her change. "You merited it, Arlette. You're more than whatever life is no at you." Sometime thereafter, as they sat in a calm bistro, Daniel and Arlette started to open dependent upon one another. Arlette shared her story how she had once carried on with a typical life, however ran into some bad luck subsequent to losing her work and confronting a progression of lamentable occasions. She talked about the dejection and difficulty of living on the roads, yet in addition about the little demonstrations of graciousness from outsiders that kept her going. Daniel listened eagerly, feeling a profound regard for the strength Arlette had displayed, even with the parody in turn. He shared his own battles, how the strain to prevail in his profession had driven him to disregard his relationship with CLA, and how he was all the while wrestling with the culpability and agony of their separation. For whenever Daniel first felt like he could discuss his feelings unafraid of judgment, as they talked, a real association started to shape between them, one based on common regard, sympathy, and understanding. They tracked down solace in each other's accounts, understanding that notwithstanding their various foundations, they had both confronted their own fights and come out more grounded. The day of the wedding shone up, and as Arlette ventured out in her wonderful dress, she looked like a totally unique individual. The change was not simply actual. She presently held herself with a recharged sense of certainty and pride. Daniel, seeing her, couldn't resist the opportunity to feel pleased with her in the excursion she had taken in only a hardly any brief days. "Are you prepared?" Daniel asked. Offer him his arm. Ar gestured a decided favor. Her face, "Yes, I'm." Together they left the condo, prepared to confront whatever the day could bring. Much to their dismay, their landing in the wedding would before long turn into the discussion of the occasion, and the bond they had forward would be tried in manners neither of them might have envisioned. Daniel and Arlette showed up at the fabulous scene, the entryways opening to uncover a rich lobby loaded up with sharp-looking visitors, sparkling crystal fixtures, and a live symphony playing delicately in the foundation. As they ventured inside, it felt like time dialed back. Heads turned, discussions stopped, and everyone's eyes were unexpectedly on them. Arlette, with her recently discovered balance and shocking dress, strolled unhesitatingly next to Daniel. She was no longer the lady from the traffic intersection. She was somebody who had a place, somebody who instructed consideration. The murmur began very quickly, spreading like out of control fire through the group. Individuals traded looks, attempting to sort out who this lovely, baffling lady was. Also, why Daniel, the young lady's ex, had brought her. Claire, the lady of the hour, remained at the furthest finish of the room, welcoming visitors with her new spouse yet when she noticed Daniel and Arlette, her grin wavered. Briefly she was totally taken aback. Arlette's presence was unforeseen. In the manner Daniel saw her, like she was the main individual in the room, mixed something agitating inside CLA as Daniel and Arlette advanced through the group. Daniel started acquainting her with different visitors. Each presentation was met with amiable with "Sir" grins. Arlette took care of herself with Arlette and enchant, yet she could detect the interest and judgment behind their eyes. Still she kept her head high, declining to allow their responses to influence her in the long run. CLA moved toward them, her articulation considerate yet strength. "Daniel, it's great to see you," she said, her eyes flicking to Arlette. "And you should be this is Arlette," Daniel said, his tone warm and pleased. "She's my date for the night." Claire constrained a grin. Her distress was clear. "Arlette, is a joy to meet you. You look exquisite." "Thank you," Arlette answered, her voice quiet and certain. "You have a lovely wedding." The air between them was thick with implicit pressure. CR attempted to keep a cool head, feeling a blend of desire and lament as she took a gander at Daniel and Arlette together. She had anticipated that Daniel should go to the wedding alone, maybe looking miserable or lost, yet rather he appeared to be more joyful than she'd at any point seen him, particularly in the presence of this lady who showed up out of no place. As the night advanced, the symphony started playing, a sluggish, heartfelt tune. Daniel went to Arlette with a grin. "May I have this dance?" Arlette delayed the slightest bit, yet the glow in Daniel's eyes gave her the fortitude to say okay. He drove her to the dance floor. What's more, as it began to move, Arlette felt herself loosened up. The music, the polish of the room, and the delicate influence of the dance made all the other things disappear, yet not so much for Claire. She strolls from the sidelines, her heart sinking as she noticed the simple way Daniel and Arlette moved together. The envy she felt was sharp, yet so was the lament. Observing Daniel with Arlette made CLA question her own decisions, contemplating whether she had committed an error by allowing him to go for Daniel anyway. The dance was a disclosure. As he held Arlette in his arms, he understood that what had begun as an imprudent choice had developed into something undeniably more significant. Arlette wasn't simply a lovely ally to make his ex desirous. She was somebody he really thought often about. The feelings that surf inside him during that dance were new and unforeseen, and for the first time since his separation with Claire, Daniel felt a feeling of harmony and satisfaction. As the tune finished, Daniel investigated Arlette's eyes and knew that the evening and their process together was a long way from done. Had started as a basic demonstration of insubordination, was transforming into something more profound, something genuine, and it was just the start of a story neither of them had expected. As the night wore on, the pressure in the room turned out to be nearly unmistakable. Claire, who had been attempting to keep up appearances, got herself progressively focused on Daniel and Arlette. Each time she looked in their heading, she felt the flood of feelings she had attempted to cover. At long last she couldn't endure anything else she got. Daniel alone close to the nursery entrance. Away from the clamoring banquet room. Daniel, she started, her voice tight. Can we talk briefly? Daniel, detecting the distress in her tone, gestured obviously. CLA, what's at the forefront of your thoughts? Claire faltered, attempting to track down the right words. I didn't anticipate that you should bring somebody like Arlette to the wedding. I would not joke about this. Clear she's not from our typical circle. I'm worried about how individuals may see this. Daniel glared, shocked by her words. Claire, Arlette is a superb individual. She may not come from abundance, however, that doesn't characterize her value. What difference does it make? Others' thought process. Claire's MK of concern started to slip, uncovering the desire under. I just try not to believe that you should get injured. Daniel, you've experienced such a lot as of now, and I don't think. Before Claire could complete, Arlette, drawn closer, having heard enough of the discussion to figure out its nature, she ventured forward, her articulation quiet however steadfast. Reason me. CLA, Arlette said delicately. I was unable to help. Be that as it may, here I know I'm not what you expected, and that is all right. However, Daniel entered me here since he saw something in me that others frequently ignore. We've every committed error, and we've all required a additional opportunity eventually in our lives. I'm here this evening for Daniel as well as for myself, to advise myself that I'm more than my conditions. Claire was quickly puzzled, surprised by Arlette's certainty and the tranquil strength in her words. She had anticipated that Arlette should modest away to be threatened by the environmental factors and individuals. However, all things being equal, Arlette stood firm, her look unfaltering. Daniel took a gander at Arlette, feeling a profound flood of regard and love. He understood that Arlette was more than just an ally for the night. She was somebody who had confronted life's difficulties with Arlette and flexibility, somebody who could tolerate upping for her and for others. At that time, Daniel knew that his affections for her had developed into something genuine, something a long ways past the introductory drive that had brought them together. The trade didn't go. Inconspicuous visitors close by who have been observing cautiously now saw Arlette in a new light. The murmurs that had once been loaded up with judgment went to deference. Arlette's balance and pride, even with such a showdown, left it enduring impact on everybody present. Claire, bothered and uncertain of herself, interestingly that evening murmured something about expecting to get back to her visitors. She immediately pardoned herself, leaving Daniel and Arlette standing together in the tranquil nursery. Daniel went to Arlette, his demeanor relaxing. Thank you. Arlette didn't have to do that. Arlette grinned delicately. I know what I needed to. You given me to such an extent this evening, Daniel. The least I could do was stand by you. At that point, Daniel knew that he at this point not thought often about intriguing CLA or any other individual at the wedding. The folk center had moved completely to Arlette, the one who had not just stood close by yet had done as such with his strength, and Arlette that lowered him. The night had gone off in a strange direction. Also, For Daniel plainly the night was as of now not about the past, it was about the future and the potential outcomes that lay ahead with Arlette. As the night slowed down, Claire found Daniel alone close to the edge of the clammy SP, watching the remaining visitors blend. She moved toward him, her means not entirely set in stone. There was something in her eyes that Daniel hadn't seen before, an unusable weakness. Daniel, could we at any point talk for a second? Cla asked delicately, her voice shaking just somewhat. Daniel went to face her, his demeanor garbled, however open. Obviously, Claire, what's on your mind? Claire took a full breath, as though gathering the fortitude to get out whatever she had been keeping down the entire night. I've been thinking since I saw you with Arlette this evening. I understood something. I committed an error when I left you. I thought that you were too centered around your work, that you lacked the capacity to deal with me. However, seeing you this evening, perceiving how you've transformed, I lament finishing things with you. Daniel was shocked by her admission. He had never anticipated that Claire should concede any second thoughts, particularly not this evening, but rather, as she talked, he felt a feeling of quiet look after him. He listened eagerly, yet something inside him had moved. The sentiments he once had for Cla, the aggravation of their separation, all appeared to have disintegrated into something lighter, something more straightforward to relinquish. Claire, Daniel started delicately, I appreciate your trustworthiness. However, actually, I've continued on. Our relationship was vital to me. However, it's in the past now. What we had was genuine. However, it's over. I discovered a lasting sense of harmony with that. Claire's eyes loaded up with a blend of trouble and understanding. She hadn't anticipated that Daniel should be so clear, so fearless. I see, she mumbled, her voice scarcely perceptible. I'm upset for how things finished. Daniel, I want you to enjoy all that life has to offer. Daniel gestured, offering her a little certified grin. Thank you, Claire. I wish you satisfaction as well. As Cla left, Daniel felt a sense of freedom. He had at last shut the section on that piece of his life, and it felt great, like a weight had been lifted off his shoulders. He had consistently thought that seeing Claire again, particularly at her wedding, would be agonizing, yet all things considered, it had brought him lucidity and conclusion. Unbeknownst to them, Arlette had heard their discussion. She had been passing by, heading towards the garden, briefly of calm when she heard Cla's admission and Daniel's reaction. She stopped, her heart with a blend of feelings. She was feeling much better that Daniel had continued on from Cla. However, a little voice in her subconscious bothered at her. Was she simply a device for Daniel to demonstrate a point? Was she simply aspect of his excursion to continue on from his P? Arlette left to the nursery, tracking down an isolated seat to sit on. She really wanted a second to think, to consider all that had happened that evening. She realized she had become attached to Daniel, or the questions started to sneak in. Did he really see her for who she was, or alternately, was she just an image of his recently discovered opportunity? As she stayed there, the night air cool against her skin, Arlette understood that She needed to know the response. She proved unable. Allow herself to be a passing section in another person's story, assuming that she was going to push ahead with Daniel. She expected to be certain that he saw her for the individual she was not. Similarly, as a response to his past with CLA, the night was attracting to a nearby with Ferret. The inquiries that waited to her sign that the night was a long way from being done. She knew she'd needed to converse with Daniel to figure out what his actual aims were, and she'd trusted that the responses would bring her the lucidity she so frantically required. Arlette found Daniel remaining solitary by the nursery, the cool night air offering a brief for bicycle from the power of the evening. She had been grappling with her contemplations since hearing his discussion with Claire. Now, with a blend of boldness and weakness, she moved toward him, knowing that the second could characterize their future. Daniel, she started delicately, her voice consistent yet ribbon with feeling. I want to ask you something. Daniel went to confront her, seeing the earnestness in her eyes. Obviously, Arlette, what's at the forefront of your thoughts? Thinking a full breath, Arlette proceeded. Was I simply a pawn in your arrangement this evening? Was this about making Claire desirous? Since, in such a case that it was, I want to realize I can't. I won't be only a device for somebody else's conclusion. Daniel's heart sank as he acknowledged how his activities could have come across. He had been so up to speed in the feelings of the night that he hadn't thought about how Arlette may feel. He ste nearer to her, his appearance mellowing. Arlette, he said genuinely, I'm sorry, assuming I caused you to feel as such. That was never my aim when I first welcomed you. I'll concede I was responding to my own sentiments, perhaps a touch of pride or renegotiate. However, what I didn't expect was the amount I come to respect and care for you. Arlette gazed toward him, scanning his eyes for any indication of trickiness. So this isn't just about demonstrating something to CLA. Daniel shook his head, his voice loaded up with conviction. No, it's not. CLA is my past. Also, I've wiped the slate clean with that this evening. Yet, you've shown me something I didn't realize. I was feeling the loss of your solidarity, your thoughtfulness, the manner in which you've taken care of everything this evening. This made me see things contrastingly. I'm not thinking about Claire any longer. I'm contemplating you and the amount I need to know you better past this evening. Arlette felt the wave of alleviation and feeling wash over her. Daniel's words contacted her profoundly, and she could detect the earnestness in his voice. Interestingly, that night, she permitted herself to trust that this could be genuine, that she could be more than simply a transient reaction for him. Much thanks to you for being straightforward with me, Arlette answered, her voice relaxing. I care about you too, Daniel. However, I had to realize that this wasn't simply the once thing. Daniel connected and delicately grasped her hand. It's not, Arlette. I don't have the foggiest idea what's on the horizon yet. I realize I need to invest more energy with you. I need to see where this can go. The bond between them developed at that time as the two of them understood that what they had was something beyond a response to the past. It was the start of something new and significant. glancing back at the wedding party, where visitors proceeded to babble and dance, Daniel felt the abrupt desire to abandon the triviality. He checked out at Arlette and saw that she was figuring exactly the same thing. For what reason don't we get out of here? Daniel proposed with a grin. How about we use whatever might remain of the evening elsewhere, only the two of us? Arlette grinned back, experiencing a glow in her heart that she hadn't felt in a long time. I'd like that, she answered. Together they discreetly got away from the wedding, deciding to leave the critical eye and murmured tattle behind. They ventured into the night, prepared to investigate anything that the future could keep intact in their own specific manner. As Daniel and Arlette left the wedding, the clamor and jabber of the occasions gradually blurred away from plain sight, supplanted by the peaceful close discussion between them. The night air was cool and the stars above appeared to sparkle somewhat more splendid as they walked together inseparably. For the first time in a drawn-out period of time, Daniel felt a feeling of harmony and idealism about the future. He went to Arlette, his eyes reflected another determination. Arlette, I don't simply care about this evening to be a one-time thing. I need to assist you with supporting you and see where this goes. You had such a lot of potential and I need to show up for you as you seek after your fantasies. Arlette gazed toward him, her heart enlarging with a blend of appreciation, furthermore, fervor. Thank you, Daniel. You don't have the foggiest idea how this affects me. For the first time in quite a while I feel like I have a chance, a genuine opportunity to turn my life around and to do it with somebody who puts stock in me. That is more than I of all time expected. As they kept on strolling, they started to discuss Arlette's yearnings, dreams that had been covered under the heaviness of her battles. Daniel listened eagerly, offering consolation. Furthermore, thoughts on how they could work together to make those fantasies a reality. Arlette felt engaged, our certainty developing with each step they reclaimed at the wedding. Cla watched them from a distance, seeing Daniel and Arlette vanishing into the late evening, filling her with a significant feeling of misfortune. She had figured she would continuously have advantage, that Daniel's affections for her could never completely blur, yet seeing him now really content with another person, she understood how wrong she had been. Cla felt the torment of lament, understanding that she had given up of something real and significant, a love she had underestimated. As Daniel also, Arlette arrived at the finish of the way. Driving away from the wedding scene, they stopped briefly, watching out at the city lights. Somewhere far off there was a feeling of resoluteness in the air, not of an finishing, however, of a fresh start. This goes like the beginning of something great, Arlette said delicately, crushing Daniel's hand. It does. Daniel concurs, grinning at her, and I can hardly stand by to see where it takes us. The story closes with Daniel and Arlette strolling together into the night, prepared to face whatever difficulties and open doors the future could bring. Their past never again characterized them, all things being equal. They are joined by a common expectation and the commitment of a more brilliant tomorrow. The venture ahead is loaded up with affection development. What's more, vast conceivable outcomes, and they are both anxious to embrace it together. If you partaken in the story and need to hear more, like it, make a point to buy into our channel. Remember to raise a ruckus around town. Notice ringer so you never miss an update. We love to hear your considerations. Drop a remark underneath and let us know where you're watching from. Your help assists us with keeping on bringing you stories loaded up with feeling, anticipation, and unforeseen turns. Thank you for being part of our local area.